everyone, welcome back to the Chromatic Knits podcast. My name is Michelle, and this is my place on the internet where I talk about all of my yarny adventures. You can find me on Ravelery as Chromatic Knits, and you can find me on Instagram as Chromatic_knits. I am back today with more knitting and some new plans that I'm coming up with, and even a new craft for me. So feel free to grab your own knitting, your laundry, your lunch, whatever it is that you're working on, and let's tuck in. If you hear squeaking or if you see her, Aria is around. Thank you. Which is her toy. We can't do this when we podcast, but I love you. She's like, give me back my toy. You get it back after we're done. Yeah. Them's the rules. Okay. So, I hope that you're all doing well. Let's talk about some knitting things and some new craft things. So, first of all, it is a whole new month. I hope that your May is going well, that you had a good Easter, all of those things. It is already hot here. It's in the 80s. Arkansas weather is insane. But we're getting through. So just trying to stay inside. Our air conditioner downstairs didn't work because when they put our new roof on, they put nails through the coolant lines. So they had to fix them. Luckily we got it fixed before it got too hot. So just trying to get through at this point. Trying to enjoy the cool inside. Ma'am, can I help you? Oh, she's got another toy. Okay, great. Okay, great. Yeah. Anyway, so, finish objects. So, I'm still on. You can't squeak, though. Just lay. Yeah, just lay down. So, I've still been on a bit of a dishcloth kick. So I knit 2 more dishcloths using the same pattern as before. So this is Grandma's favorite dishcloth pattern. It's free. It's on Ravelery. I knit 2 more, both in the same yarn that I used before, which is Knit Picks Dishy. I love this yarn. It's super soft, but also able to scrub. I scrub my shower doors. So like when you have glass doors, you're supposed to use like the squeegee, the spray, and then the squeegee. But every like couple weeks, months or so, you really need to like get in and scrub any like soap residue or anything like that stays on there. So I used one of my homemade dishcloths and was able to scrub it off, and I didn't need to get anything that was like extra scrubby, which by the way, the pink stuff is amazing. Like I don't know who makes it. I don't know what it's made out of. It's some kind of magic. But definitely recommend. So I have 2 more of those done. I will be knitting more of those. Ma'am, we cannot be squeaky. I'm sorry. You'll get it back after we're done. Okay, Nugget is also here in case you see him jumping around. Hi, bud. Oh, there he is. He's a mama boy. Okay, so those are done. What else have I worked on? Like I said, I spent some time these 2 weeks and went to YouTube University and was learning some basic new crafts. So for the longest time, I've been wanting to make a granny stripe blanket. And I just haven't had the time to look up how to do it, and just haven't felt comfortable, and just didn't have the brain space to take on something new. And then I got bored one day and was like, you know what? I just don't want to knit like in the round. Like because I've been working a lot on my Kala crop top, which you'll see in a minute. But I was working on it a lot and was just knitting in the round, and I was like, I just need to do something else. Like it doesn't matter what it is. I just need to do something else. My brain was like, we need something new. So I did some YouTubing. I looked up a bunch of different tutorials. There are a ton of them out there. where you can learn to do the granny stripe blanket or granny square pattern. So I had some minis lying around. This is an advent that I got from Bumblebee Acres in like 2020 or so. Let me pull this out so I don't lose my stitch. So anyway, so I think this is fingering weight. Not 100% sure. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, I'm making it nice and wide. Keeps going. So it's about my wingspan so that, you know, we can wrap up in it because those are my favorite blankets. And I know that if I can't wrap up in it, I'm not going to use it. So I'm trying to make it as wide as I am tall. And so I've been using these fingering weight minis from this advent. I've been really enjoying it. It's super meditative. I don't know if you've never done this before and you've always been interested in it. The reason that people do it is because it's A, super addicting, and B, super meditative. Like, I've been wanting to work on this forever, but I'm like, no, Michelle, you have other projects that need your attention. You can't only work on this. So yeah, so I've been putting in some work on this. I'll show you the other side so you don't see that end sticking out. Yeah, it's coming along. I'm really enjoying it. And I have some more minis in here that are ready to go and balled up. And I need to find the rest of the advent because I'm not really sure where that is. Somewhere in the magic yarn cabinet. But yeah, so I still have some more of that to go. But I'm really liking how that's coming along. I'm using a G hook, 4mm. I got a set of clover. Clover hooks a while ago and was like, and you know, had every intention of using them and never did. So here we are. I'm finally using them. So yeah, so that is inside my Mrs. Brown's bag that I've had for a while. I think this is the Jazz colorway. Love this bag. And yeah, so it's just living in here for now until it outgrows this bag. But yeah, really loving that. And if I can do it, you can do it. Like, I have the attention span of a moth, so the ADHD is real. So if I can do it, you can do it. And if you hear me or see me pushing my headphone back in, for whatever reason, the left one likes to pop out, but I'm trying to see if I use these, if the sound is better. So just to let you know that that's what's happening. Moving on. So as I've already kind of talked about my Call It Crop Top by Pip and Pin, let's have a look at that. So I have finally finished the main body of this shawl. So let me find my progress keeper here to not lose stitches. That would be tragic. So this is where I was last time, and this is where I am now. So I've done a good like 8 inches, 10 inches on this sweater, and now I've started doing the twisted rib for the edge, if you can see that there. So I'm working on the twisted rib now, and I'm just gonna do a couple inches of ribbing, and then this will be done. So hopefully by the next podcast, this will be done and completed, and I can start wearing it before it gets too hot, because here in Arkansas it can get over 100 degrees, which is not a good time. I also need to Aria it. So as much as I love Aria, she is a white-haired dog and her hair goes everywhere. One of her nicknames that we have is Beepy, and we call it beepifying things when they get covered in white fur. So I need to de-beepify that sweater as well. So I'll need to do that too before I wear it. But yeah, that's coming along. It's almost done. I'm hoping to have a finished object next time. Fingers crossed. If you haven't looked at that pattern, it's super easy. Would highly recommend it. Yeah, even for a first garment, this is my first garment, and it's coming along and it fits, which is a miracle. So it fits like perfectly the way it is right now. So just trying to get it done while it still fits. So yeah, so that's that. Oh, and I'm using Knit Picks Gloss for that, in case you were wondering, because I haven't mentioned it in a little bit. Okay, next, I've been working on my Coziest Memories blanket. This is a pattern by Kemper Ray. And let's see, I've added, I think, 3 new squares. Yeah, so I added these 2. So this was a yarn that I got for my brother-in-law. He's a huge Broncos fan, so it's Broncos colors. This gray I've added, and then this purple here I've added. So these miter squares are also super addicting, so if you ever get into doing this pattern, that's there as well. So just to let you know. But yeah, still loving this project. Still need to sew in the ends, but like, who does that right away? Psychos, that's who does that. So yeah, anyway, still working on this, trying to get, you know, a couple squares done each time that I work on it. And yeah, so there's that. Just using random scraps that I have lying around for that. So they're all fingering weight, just random scraps. Now, the last project that I've been working on, this is the Limestone One Skein Shawl by Michelle Miller. So for this, I've been using Cascade Ultra Pima Fine in the gray colorway. So this is cotton yarn, because it's for my mother who lives in Florida and it's a gajillion degrees down there. So Pima cotton, it's like $7 a ball on Eat Sleep Knit. That's the cheapest I saw it. So, and it's super soft, would highly recommend. Super soft, super light. It's a fingering borderline sport weight yarn. So some places say that this is fingering, some places say that it's sport weight, depending on where you read it. So, but for this shawl, it'll be perfect. So I've started working on this shawl, but I have been having some problems with the stitch count, where my stitch count isn't matching up exactly. I think it's okay. Like, I think it's going to pattern so far. And it's supposed to be kind of holey and lacy, so it's fine. And you can see the line going up the middle there. And so this is going to be for my mother for her birthday. So I'm hoping to do a lot on this next couple weeks, because her birthday is in June, so that I can get this mailed off to her and get it to her by her birthday. This pattern is really easy so far. I'm still reading into it and still learning it, so I'm only in the second section. I just started the second section. So still getting into that, but hopefully this will be more of a shawl next time I show it instead of just the beginning, but that's coming along as well. And this is also in a Mrs. Brown's Bags bag. I don't know the name of this yarn on this print, but I think it's really pretty. So there you go. There's that. So that is all of the knitting that I've done the past couple of weeks. Now let's get into the math of what's come in and what's gone out. So I have acquired some new yarn. So this is a set of minis that Frankie Gray Fiber had in their shop. These are all fingering weight 80-20 base, 20 gram minis. There's 20 in here. They're all different colors. Some of them are speckled, some of them are not. But if you know me, you know I love a rainbow. So this is perfect for me. And I love this color. I don't know what that color is, but I love it. So this is coming into the shop, Yeah, right. Like it kind of feels that way sometimes. Like my yarn stash is its own little shop. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so that's coming into um, my my stash, and then I'm still thinking up a pattern for that. I have a couple things in mind. I'm thinking maybe another habitation throw would be good. I don't know if I have enough for that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, I might grab some other skeins, some other mini skeins from other projects or other things because I have a bunch of mini skeins lying around. So I might kind of mix and match with that. So we'll see what happens. What else? I also have the 450-gram cakes of the Cascade Pima Fine that came into my stash as well. So altogether, that's 600 grams, 400 grams for the minis. So 20 minis times 20 grams, it's 400. And then plus the 200 grams for the 450-gram cakes of the Pima cotton. And then the going out, as far as that goes, I knit 80.21 grams of my Kala tee. I crocheted 69.46 grams on my granny stripe blanket, 16.05 grams on my coziest memory blanket, 76.02 grams on my dishcloths, and 5.98 grams on the shawl, making a grand total of 247 grams, 0.72 grams going out and being knit this week or these 2 weeks, giving me a positive in the stash of 352.28 grams. So that is what's going in and out of the stash. And then I did have a couple things that I wanted to talk about this week as far as knitting goes and as far as crafting goes. So some people, so there's so many different ways of knitting, so many different traditions, and so many different styles of knitting. So I wanted to talk about kind of the different traditions, the different types of knitting, how they differ, and why we should really be knitting all of these different traditions. Because the main reason that knitting is so important as a hobby and as a lifestyle, as some people think of it as, is because knitting, these old traditions and these old skills are dying out because we have so many machines that can do all these things for us. It's a dying art where people aren't doing it as often or as much as they should. There are some countries where most people know how to knit and most people do knit, like Norway, for example, and a lot of the Nordic countries. It's very much ingrained in them and they learn it from a very young age in school. But in some countries like the United States, it is not really a thing. It's something that you see like occasionally and you think of associated with older women, but you don't see a lot of younger people doing it, unfortunately, in a lot of areas. So that has changed a little bit. Some people have started knitting since the pandemic. Some people are learning in like college and places like that, but it's still considered a dying art because people can just go out to the store and purchase a shirt like this, like this commercial top that I'm wearing right now. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that because we definitely should, because there's no way that we have the time with our lifestyle now in the 21st century to keep up with, work, family, knitting, all those things. There's no way that you could clothe everyone in your life just by knitting all of your clothes. Like, there's no way that you could do that. But what I'm saying is that it's really important to learn all of these different traditions and all of these different ways of knitting and crafting so that we can pass them on to the next generation. Because like I said, a lot of these things, even though they're now readily available in books and they're readily available in like online, in Ravelery and other places, a lot of times we're just not reaching out to those and we're knitting a lot of the same things. So the people, I go to a knit night every Monday night at my local library. There's a knitting group there, and a lot of the things that I see are very similar. Like they're all a lot of garter stitch, or it's like a lot of shawls, and they're all written by either American or British or Australian or Canadian designers, but we're not doing a lot of things that are like different traditions from other cultures. Um, and so we're starting to lose those skills as well. If you've seen some of this, I would love to hear what you're seeing in your community. But in the different knitting groups that I've been in different states, in different parts of the United States, it seems that we're knitting a lot of the same things. Some traditions are coming through, like more color work is starting to happen in American designers, but even then we're only using American designers. And even though some, I mean, obviously it's tough to do patterns, knit patterns that are in other languages, but there are a lot of patterns now that have been translated into English, especially if you're an English speaker, because English is, the largest language in the world, and the largest population of people who are going to purchase patterns. So, in order to be marketable, a lot of different designers are now translating into English, even if they're from another country like Norway, for example. But there are so many different traditions out there. Just knowing that we can start knitting like color work mittens. So, like the color mittens that I'm making for my advent calendar. That's huge. Just being able to do that and being able to pass that tradition on. Color work mittens, although they are something that had been coming back a lot during like COVID, I'm starting to see them less and less. Maybe that's just me, but I want to knit some Christmas balls like by Arne and Carlos, which is a huge tradition in Norway. A lot of places they do that in the Scandinavian countries or in the Nordic countries. So I'm wanting to do that as well. And I know a lot of it is just being able to find the time to do these things. But I think it's really important to learn all of those skills and to try and gain some of those, like, do some of those Estonian patterns, which I have some on my list that I'm planning to do here in the next year. Some color work patterns, some Nordic patterns, some, how is this tradition different than this one? How is Fair Isle different from Nordic, from like Norwegian knitting? Is it because like the main thing is that they use more colors, right? So like Fair Isle, you're going to see tons of different colors versus Nordic. Estonian, you're going to see so many more colors. Latvian, you're going to see so many different colors in Latvian mittens versus Norwegian mittens. And then Estonian, you're going to see all these different patterns that are, specific to that area. So I think it's really important that we don't forget that there are other places in the world that have these traditions that are also dying out there. And even though there are countries like Norway, I know I keep using them as an example, but Norway has like the most knitters per capita in the world, pretty much. Just knowing that there are places like that in the world that's amazing, that's keeping this art alive. But there are places like the United States, like Canada, like other European countries where it's rare or it's strange in their meetups and things for people to talk about knitting because there's not that many knitters in the community, right? So it's not something that people talk about on a daily basis or are doing on a daily basis unless you're specifically meeting them at a yarn store or something, somewhere like a location like that where you're going to be meeting people that have this similar interest. So I'm just going to encourage you, and I'm going to encourage myself and make it a goal for myself, because I know that there's so many traditions out there of knitting that I haven't discovered yet and that I want to discover. Whether that's, one of my goals is to read a pattern in Spanish from a Spanish speaking country, whether it's Spain or somewhere in South America. I'm sure that there are lovely patterns in those languages. So my goal is to reach out and find a pattern that is written in that language and learn, how to read a knitting pattern in those languages, because again, the verbiage is going to be different, right? So every pattern is written a little bit differently. Like if you see a Norwegian pattern versus an American pattern, there's a lot less detail. Like there's a lot less instructions and a lot less hand holding. Like American pattern is written out, like every single line, what you do here, what you do there. Norwegian patterns are a lot more charts, right? A lot more charts based. Different countries have different traditions. So just learning to be able to read those different patterns and to be able to do those different things are different skills that are kind of dying out in these countries. So I'm hoping my plan is to start bringing some of those traditions onto this podcast so we can kind of talk about them and how they're different and how we read them and how we access them, to make them more accessible for people to start using those crafts and to start doing those types of patterns instead of just sticking with kind of the same thing as everyone else. Because as much as, I enjoy our standard knits and the things that we do every day, I think it's really important to also branch out and do something new that's, it might be difficult, but it's going to be worth it. Because again, we're adding another skill, we're adding another tool to our toolbox, and we're learning a new region of the world and a new tradition to our craft and enriching our knowledge of what we already know. So, if you have any ideas, if you have any designers that you love that are from another country, or any traditions that you love that you would love me to bring onto this podcast and share in this space, I would love to hear it down below in the comments. Please comment down below. As always, please subscribe, please like this podcast. It all means so much to me, and those are kind of the things to come. Otherwise, that is all of the knitting that I have for this week. I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, and I hope that you all have a lovely 2 weeks and have a wonderful Mother's Day if you're a mother. Bye, everybody.